Hi, this is episode 1 of the Napcast. My name's Math Geek, and today I'm going to be here with Red Pandas Bear. And do you have a preferred name? Do you want me to just call you Red or Panders or Panda? Or what do you think?
I don't really care. My name's actually Anders, but
Sure, let's go with Anders then.
with Discord servers, people know me as like Panders, Panda, stuff like that. But I don't
We'll go
really
with
care.
Anders for
Any
simplicity.
work.
Yeah, you can call me Tim if you like, or you can call me Math. You can call me Krill. I'm good at any of the above.
All right.
So yeah, we podcast about Pokemon Sleep. If
And
everybody
it's episode 1.
This is episode 1. It is. It's the premiere episode. I have no idea how many episodes we're going to do of this, but I think every time that there's a new, interesting, hot topic to chat about, that we're going to come together and, do a little recording. Because, it doesn't hurt to spew some of our ideas about different things. This episode, we're going to be talking about natures, specifically.
Yep, and I'm kind of glad you pulled me on for this, because I've been crazy active in the Discords. Second I downloaded this game a few weeks ago, I've been nonstop playing it, looking at everything. It's been really interesting. Something I really like about Pokemon Sleep in general is just that your IRL habits have an effect on the game, which most games don't really have something like that. How long you sleep actually matters.
Yeah.
And that's something that's really tied into people's health and everything. So it's a great concept. It's a wonderful game.
I do find it amusing how you said that, like, I'm bringing you on, as if that, you didn't pitch the idea of doing a podcast to me.
Well, I was talking about doing videos, and you were just like, "Ooh, podcast! Let's get right on that."
Yeah, but we both we both had the idea of creating content together to do something like this. So, I think that Pokemon Sleep is a really clever idea for a game because it gamifies healthy sleeping habits, which
Definitely.
I'm sure it's been done before. Like, gamifying healthy habits has been done before.
Right, but
I
this
used
is
to
Pokemon.
do. Are you familiar with Habitica?
No, I'm not actually.
It's basically set a to-do list of healthy habits for yourself, like chores and things like that, and then as you do it, you basically play an RPG and it gamifies it to turn into little rewards. And it was a really popular way to be able to, stay on top of things. But there was no accountability for it. You could kind of just lie about all of it, and just when you say, yes, I did my thing, you get the check mark, and that's it. And it kind of just made it like, because that it was a to-do list, as opposed to like an actual like monitoring you doing things, it didn't end up working super well long term for me personally. But I think with Pokemon Sleep, on the other hand,
Pokemon Sleep guilt trips you.
Yeah, it guilt trips you, but it actually does like record your sleep, so you can't really cheat it as well.
Yeah, and there's ways to cheat it. People have done it. People do
Of course.
But it's a lot more effort to, circumvent it, and it's a little more like, usually you feel bad doing it. Like, man, I'm actually kind of cheating myself if I circumvent Pokemon Sleep. Like, I'm not gonna get the sleep I need, or I'm just, I'm hurting my own health. Like, it actually feels like you're doing yourself a disservice, at least to me personally. But I think that's true for a lot more people with Pokemon Sleep compared to stuff like that. Yeah. And also, it's Pokemon.
Well, yeah, everybody loves Pokemon. Yeah,
everyone loves Pokemon. It's the massive reaching franchise, so this getting out to tons of people, it will stick for probably a lot of people and actually do really good for them potentially.
Yeah, I think that this game is going to have a decent amount of longevity. Pokemon Unite has already gone on for, at this point, over 2 years, and it's still very successful.
I love Unite. I know you love Unite, but it's not the most impressive Pokemon game they've put out.
I very much have a love-hate relationship with Pokemon Unite.
Yeah, same
because the game itself is very interesting conceptually and worked really well, but like, oh my lord, do they just not fix the bugs?
Yeah, it's kind of like a bare bones MOBA in some ways.
Yeah. That really fleshed out in other ways.
It's buggy. That's really fleshed out. It is kind of buggy, but I don't know. Yeah, I think love-hate's a good way of putting it for Pokemon Unite, because I know I love the game. I know many people hate the game, and I've hated the game at points, but it's definitely a very like interesting game. But Pokemon Sleep is one that I think is just, if you don't like Pokemon Sleep, it's not a hate. It's not for you. But if you like Pokemon Sleep, that thing's gonna, have health benefits. It's gonna be great. Like, it takes that kind of like addiction to mobile market that usually is really negative, but it puts a positive twist on it because you're actually like fixing sleep schedules and stuff like that.
Exactly. It's abusing the fact that you're addicted to getting cute Pokemon, and they twist that to improve your life. And it's done wonders for me, honestly. Like, I have gone to bed at, like, consistently 11 o'clock, between, like, 10:30 and 11:30 for, like, the past, like, 3 weeks, and it has, like, heck, even if you ignore the fact that it's trying to gamify me into playing, and you just look at the sleep features, and just the sleep features, it's still good, because on top of all of the above, like, the fact that it has an alarm clock built into it that'll wake you up when you're at, like, the most, like, comfortable point of waking up, it has been, like, basically, I haven't had to wake up to that alarm in a while, because the first week I did it, I consistently set the alarm at, like, 7 o'clock, wake me up in the next 45 minutes. And I would wake up between 6:15 and 6:40 usually. And then this week, I set it to wake me up at 7:30 because I'm like, I was afraid that I was going to sleep through this alarm and then I wasn't going to be able to wake up. So I set it like an hour later now that I'm more comfortable with that. And I've been naturally waking up before my alarm rings now because I'm getting a good amount of sleep. And
so you're saying it like kind of works for that thing where it gets
so well.
Huh. I haven't messed with the feature too much. So the game was really good for me for 1 week, but then I'm a college student right now. I had finals week, and it kind of threw all that out the window. But I've been slowly catching back up, and like last night I went back to my normal sleep schedule with Pokemon Sleep, which is crazy. I'm someone that normally stays up till 4 a.m., 8 a.m. That's not healthy.
Yeah,
but
I used to do the same.
But like, I kind of like regressed a little bit, I guess would be the word, during finals week, because, you know, it's busy. You have tons of papers, assignments, everything. I stayed up past midnight to turn everything in. But the second that week was over, I started going right back to my natural Pokemon sleep schedule.
So,
which is great.
I think that the game has been very productive, but
exactly.
Although,
and the game itself is good, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Like, even outside of the health benefits.
Although it also has health benefits, the game itself is gamified really well, because if there's one thing that Pokemon fans love more than anything else, it's being able to min-max and figure out an intricate system. People love being able to, you know, figure out how to min-max Pokemon to get exact values in calcs. So that if you extrapolate that onto a kind of, you know, almost a Tycoon-y kind of style game, like Tycoon almost style game, with this like infinite generation and growth and the whole Pokemon berry system, it works incredibly well, and it's a very cute way of getting Pokemon fans interested.
I agree.
And it's very complex.
Something I want to add on top of that, like, the systems are complex, which just, like, scratches that itch for the players that love to min-max. And the players that don't love to min-max, you're watching your favorite Pokemon sleep. It's very adorable. The attention to detail is great. Like, Doduo, for example, this one everyone likes to point out. Like, one head is the lookout while the other one is sleeping, and they flip-flop turns and stuff. Like, attention to detail to minor things like that across the entire board for all the Pokemon that are in the game. If your favorite's in here and they're on your team, you love to watch them do that. So, like, even if you're not that kind of min-maxy person, you get to kind of have this really cute love letter to Pokemon, kind of, as well.
I will say, though, that this is now, I think, the 4th Pokemon game in a row where my favorite Pokemon isn't in it. Back in Gen 1, I caught my first ever shiny. It was a shiny Dugong, and I brought it up from Pokemon Fire Red, which, you know, Gen 1, whatever. Yep. Shiny Dugong. I brought it from Dugong, from Fire Red Leaf Green, which you can argue if that's Gen 1 or not, all the way up to Diamond Pearl, and kept bringing it up every generation until I brought it into the Pokemon, whatever it's called, the box, the lab, or whatever it's called. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. And then no game since I don't have it. Sword and Shield didn't have it. Legends Arceus did have it, but you couldn't port the mid to Legends Arceus at the time. Scarlet Violet didn't have it. Pokemon Unite doesn't have it. And now we have a game that's like, hey, we got a bunch of mons from Gen 1 and Gen 2, and of course, it doesn't have my Dugong either. It's like, come on.
Well, something I'm really comfortable about, at least for your Dugong example, there's kind of like a heavy bias to the early generations in the cast right now, and I think they're going to try to fill it out from like Generation 1 to Generation 9 is my guess is how they're going to do it, because those early Pokemon are really popular. And we know they're going to add Pokemon to this game. There's Oval Stone and Metal Coat in the shop right now.
So we're probably going to be getting Scyther and...
Yeah, Scyther, Onix, Chansey, at least, which points towards them adding more Pokemon down the line, because those don't exist in the game, and nothing uses the Oval Stone or Metal Coat at this moment. But they're in the shop, so they 100%, that's just a signal that they're adding at least those Pokemon. But they're probably going to add a lot more going forward, is my guess.
Yep.
And also about the shiny luck thing. I had bad shiny luck early on in Pokemon. One of the earliest ones I remember, I was young teen. I found a shiny Cleffa in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, and that thing's hard to catch, and I accidentally killed it. So that sucked.
Oh, jeez.
And then following that, I was playing a ROM of something where they were like following Red Story or something like that, and I found like a shiny Tauros in the Safari Zone, and that game, not even joking, I was so mad. You can't catch Pokemon in the Safari Zone because it's considered like a nature preserve.
Yep.
So I found the shiny, and then I kept trying to throw the ball, and they're like, "Stop! It's an endangered species. You can't catch it."
Yep. By the way, I just looked it up, and apparently Dugong isn't even in Pokemon Legends Arceus, so it's been like 5 games since I've been able to play it. Like Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl has it, but that doesn't really count. Nobody counts that as a game.
All right, I think we might have tangent enough.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, actually, on the topic of shinies, I actually do want to talk about shinies one last little bit, because this game has, like, there's a huge community around the idea of shiny hunting, and this game does have reliable enough shinies with a relatively low rate, like a high rate. Like, it's consistent to be able to, like, the amount of grinding you do to get a shiny is relatively low. I've already caught a shiny, for example. Plenty of people have caught 1 or 2 shinies.
But I'm pretty sure I'm unlucky.
But yeah, you've also been playing for, like, what? We've been playing for, like, 3 weeks.
3 weeks. Yeah, it's not like, crazy that I'm, like, out of the odds or whatever. However you want to say it.
You will catch a shiny in the next, 2 months. Like, it does not take too long to get there.
I feel like I'll probably find one sooner or later. I'm not stressing about it. But it's not bad to shiny hunt in this game. The odds are immensely lower than base game. I 100% agree. It's, like, a good game if you just want to get a shiny Pokemon.
Exactly. So yeah, now let's actually talk about the math behind the game briefly before we can get into the main topic of the episode.
All right.
So basically, this episode is going to be about natures. In the base games, there are 25 natures, and there are 25 here as well, but they're different. In the base games, you have 1 plus and 1 minus. The plus increases that stat by 10%, and the minus decreases that stat by 10%, which isn't a ton, all things considered, but it's notable. Usually you have attack, defense, special attack, special defense, and speed. In this game, none of that matters. We have a bunch of other stats that all get increased and decreased by natures accordingly, and we're going to talk about those. But I think before we get into the exact natures of the natures, I want to quickly talk about what a Pokemon kind of looks like in terms of its stat block and why we might care about certain values in the base core of the game. I think it'll take us like 5 minutes just to quickly go through what a Mon is, right?
Yeah, definitely go for it.
So I'm going to give a brief explanation of like one Pokemon. I'm just going to basically pull out exactly one Pokemon. So let me just grab a Bulbasaur, for example.
Bulbasaur works.
Bulbasaur is just one of the first ones.
Good option.
Bulbasaur is a grass-type Pokemon, and because he's a grass-type Pokemon, he gets Durin berries, because every type has a specific berry it pairs to. Every once in a while, he'll just pull a berry out and say, hey, I found a berry for Snorlax, and it gives a little bit of strength to the Snorlax that you have grinded in the middle. He also has ingredients, a primary ingredient that every single Bulbasaur will always have, and then, including that primary ingredient, 2 other ingredients, and of those 3, he has 2 extra slots that will be randomized to determine as he grows up what other kind of ingredients he can pull. Nextly, he'll have an ability. In this case, for Bulbasaur, his ability is Ingredient Magnet S, that when it pulls, it just grabs 6 ingredients at random, and cool, you just have some ingredients. Which you can use to make recipes, which give even more strength to Snorlax. Also, Mons have a base frequency, which tells you, in theory, base frequency is about how fast you're going to be pulling berries and ingredients, a carry limit of how many things it can hold in its inventory before it no longer can hold anything, the friendship points needed, which is how you're able to acquire Pokemon every day after you've done a big sleep, and then recruit experience and shards are just like the EXP that you gain as a character and the little currency you get for discovering them. That's basically everything there is to a Mon, plus a specialty, which increases the amount of ingredients it generates, or the berries it generates, and how often it skill triggers. Anything I'm missing?
Something I do want to just extra clarify, because it's a question some people have. So Bulbasaur can find honey, potatoes, or tomatoes.
Yeah.
But its first ingredient, the one that you get at level 1,
honey,
all the way up to level 29, that's honey. At level 30 and 60, it can be any of them, honey, potatoes, or tomatoes, but right now it always finds honey. So every player right now has a Bulbasaur that can find honey, no exception.
Yep, because if you have a Bulbasaur, you have it that you can have honey. It's until you get to level 30 when you start unlocking more ingredient slots, you'll get more, but that doesn't really matter at the moment. For the moment, what really matters is the fact that you can generate ingredients of some kind, you can generate berries of some kind, and the berries and ingredients for now are locked per Pokemon. The other ones don't really matter. And with that, I think that's all the information you need in order to be able to understand natures on a base conceptual level. Notably as well, one last thing that's kind of important for all of this is that Pokemon have energy levels. Throughout the day, once every 10 minutes, they will lose 1% of energy, which means over the course of 1 hour, they'll lose 6. Over the course of an entire 16-hour day, they'll lose 96, about 100, you know? So... Yep. Given that, if they go to 0 energy, they are significantly weaker, and they generate things significantly slower than if they're at full energy. So you want to keep their energy high. When you go to bed, they will regenerate a big bunch of their energy, depending on how long you sleep. The longer you sleep, the more they regenerate. Good thing. That's how Pokemon work. Did I miss anything?
No. Everything sounds good to me.
So, this episode we're going to be talking about our tier list of natures. So the first thing we wanted to jump into with natures is what can natures actually affect? There are 5 variables that natures can affect. They can affect the speed of help, which is how fast your mon can find berries and ingredients. There is energy recovery, which when you take a nap or a sleep, how much more energy does it recover, or how much less energy does it recover? Ingredient finding increases or decreases the rate as to how often you find ingredients. Main skill chance, which increases or decreases the odds of you having your main skill trigger. And then EXP gains, which each mon every night will gain a certain amount of EXP as well. That'll slowly level it up, make it better and better, and this increases or decreases that amount. First we wanted to talk about was...
Well, since the last thing we talked about with the base kit, we could do energy. You can start with energy natures and help speed.
Yeah, but I think that... So, what's interesting is I think that energy is yeah, whatever.
It's a very interesting stat, at least. And it's probably the one that people are going to be asking about and coming to this podcast for.
So let's start with energy. So, basically, to be a bit more specific about it, when you go to sleep, you will generate a sleep score. When you get 8.5 hours of sleep, you get a 100 sleep score. And then anywhere from there down to the minimum, I think, of 30 minutes of good sleep, that'll give you 1 sleep score. And then everywhere in between will, scale it accordingly. However much your sleep score is...
If you sleep that full amount that the game asks you of 8.5 hours,
you get 100 sleep score.
Yeah,
which
you
is 100%.
should have 100 score.
Exactly, and you generate a percent equal to the sleep score. If you sleep, if you get a 50 sleep score, then all your mons will regenerate 50% energy, which is really not good because over the course of a day, they'll go down to 0, which would be running on empty. So energy recovery boosts energy by, 18% or 20%? I can never remember which one.
20%.
20%.
That 18% was just one really weird outlier. We don't know what that was, but everyone else that tried it afterwards, it was 20% consistently.
Okay, so then which one was it? Is it EXP?
I think there's rounding errors with energy, but it is 20%. EXP, I don't remember. I'd have to do a double check, so I'll pull it up when we reach EXP. I'll just dig for it, and then when we reach EXP, I'll give you the value.
Sure, but yeah, so energy. The idea is that you generate 20% more energy or lose 20% energy, which would be basically a 1.2 times multiplier or a 0.8 times multiplier. Yep. There's apparently still some confusion whether its energy is 18 or 20%. I'll look into it later to get the exact numbers.
It
doesn't really matter for the sake of this.
Pretty sure there's a rounding error thing of rounding up or rounding down that gives you the slightly funky, but 20% is basically the average.
So let's just say 20% for the sake of argument. 20%. So that means if I sleep, a 70 night, as opposed to my mon having 70%, it'll now have 84. Or it would have 56. So that's a significant gain or loss.
Or 70 if you're neutral.
Or 70, yeah. If you don't have a plus or minus in energy recovery, then it'll just be 70. So, given that, what's your thoughts on whether this is good or bad or how much or that kind of thing?
So, minus energy is not very helpful. It's actually kind of a bad thing to have. but this could be compensated by your Pokemon's main ability being energy gathering, for example. So it's not the worst. And having minus energy, it's a very awkward place because it depends how much you sleep a night. If you don't sleep very much, or you take naps, so you sleep in like a 4-chunk block, 4.5-hour chunk block or whatever, you'll be noticing the minus energy effects really hard.
Yeah. If it really is pretty brutal being able to look back and say, man, I slept a perfect 100% sleep tonight, and one of your mons is sitting at 80%. That is a major blow to the growth of that mon, because we do know that when they reach 0, they are at a significant weaker position than if they're at full.
It's very
uncomfortable.
Exact numbers,
but it's very easy to see that there's a significant drop.
Yeah, it's very awkward. It puts you in a weird place because you're like, at 80%, it's not that big of a deal, but you'll run out fast, and when it's at 0, you will notice that difference. So later in the day, your Pokemon's going to be running on empty, it's going to be gathering very slow. It's just going to be not a great time, so for that reason, I'm not high on minus energy. There's chances that, like, energy Pokemon don't care about down energy, and it might even be, like, a good nature for them, potentially. Because
there are mons that can restore energy to individual mons or to teams. And
like T-Tar
minus energy doesn't hurt nearly as hard with that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because T-Tar restores its own energy. At level 1, it's 12 energy per, but as that goes up, it gets higher and higher, and you can definitely offset the nature just by having a T-Tar that has that, like, energy down. But something like a Bulbasaur that doesn't have that natural energy recovery will start to really struggle in the later half of the day.
Exactly. What is T-Tar's lower evolution called?
Pupitar and then Tyranitar. You know Tyranitar at least.
Yeah, but like, what's the one pre-evolution of Pupitar?
The Larvitar. It's Larvitar, Pupitar.
Larvitar. Thank you. That's what I was trying to think of. Larvitar.
Yep.
So I wanted to pull it up on my screen just so I could see comparatively what his stats are and what his ability is. Charge energy small. Yeah, it's
I believe Bellsprout. You can check just by clicking on the ability on the site, but
yeah, but I'm doing my spreadsheet.
Yep, but Bellsprout also has that ability. There's other ones too that I'm forgetting, but there's a couple Pokemon that naturally regenerate their energy. I think Swablu does as well, and Doduo.
Yeah, Rattata does. Bellsprout, Doduo, Cubone, Umbreon, Larvitar, Swablu.
Yeah. So those mons, I think you can comfortably run if they have a minus energy nature. It's probably not perfect, but it's definitely way less of a downside on those mons than it is for Pokemon that have Ingredient Magnet or Charge M, stuff like that. So there's some cases where you really don't care. There's some cases where you very much care, like if you're a chunk sleeper instead of, like, you do it in different chunks. And then it's just generally uncomfortable for other things, just sleeping at 100 power every day in your one big sleep. It could be detrimental over the long run, potentially.
Yeah, it's something you kind of have to consider. Charge Energy S is really funny because if you're running those mons anyways, once the ability gets to a high enough level where your Charge Energy can now proc on itself, for a big amount. Like, level 6 is 43 energy.
Yes,
and also if you have that, then the minus energy really does not matter that much. Although,
extra note with the Charge M. I have an extra note with the Charge M. That scales with your Global Island bonus from what we were testing. So that means that 4,300, if you have 100% island bonus on Green Grass, let's say you went there 50 times or whatever, or 20 times, my bad. If you went there 20 times and you had 100 bonus, you're going to be getting 8,000 plus energy a proc for that Charge M, which is it's absurd.
So, yeah.
Charge M is a good ability. So keeping your energy high to activate that a bunch is great.
Pretty nice. What's next after energy recovery?
Might as well talk about energy up. We talked about energy down. We didn't talk about energy up.
Energy up is interesting because it's both very good and very bad. It depends on your style of play.
Yes.
My style of play is to very rarely take naps and just have one big sleep at the end of the day. I'll go to bed at like 10:30, and then I'll wake up at 7:30 or 8 o'clock, and then I'll have slept for 8.5 hours to 9 hours, and I get my full 100 score in one big burst.
Yeah, and energy useless for you.
And then, the extra plus is worthless, because if I'm already restoring them to 100, then anything that goes above that just doesn't give me anything. It doesn't restore them to 120%. It only restores them to 100. A good night's sleep can only ever bring somebody up to 100.
Yeah, but if you're doing it in chunk sleeps where you're doing like 4 hours, or however your naps break down, it can be really, really handy to keep your Pokemon topped off during the day. Your neutral Pokemon might regenerate to 40% energy, but that energy plus nature is going to regenerate to the 50s or even 60s.
Yeah.
And if that happens for you, you're going to really enjoy that, because that Pokemon's going to outperform those other ones by a little bit during that time frame, and it's just kind of like an extra boost during the day.
It'll just end up making... It's just going to be like a cute, extra little clean amount of consistency.
Yeah.
It's not going to be huge, but it's just, it's going to be nice. If you're the kind of person that takes a nap during the day, it's going to provide you enough, enough value.
I know I like my siestas sometimes. Like, I kind of naturally get tired from, like, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., and I kind of want to take a nap for an hour or two. So if I end up doing my sleep styles like that, it'll be a benefit for a player like me, potentially. Or at least not a downside. Like, it'll have some marginal use cases where I enjoy it. But it depends on your sleep style. Like, Krill, no, it's not going to be very good for you at all. It's just kind of whatever. Zero benefit.
So it's basically the plus is zero benefit to me. The minus still hurts, but the plus has no benefit to me. So I'd put that like squarely in my middle tier. But it depends on how you use it. So like it's very much a conditional kind of thing. So next is help speed, awesome. Which is roughly giving you an idea as to how frequently you'll get more ingredients and berries.
Good stat. Every Pokemon loves it. Like berry, ingredient, skills, even skill specialists. Every single Pokemon loves this nature. Every single Pokemon loves this stat.
Well, it's funny because like speed of help just increases the consistency of your mon by 10%. It's
you gather 10% faster.
It's just nice, and it's very, very solid. Basically, everybody loves it. I mean, there are probably better options for other mons, but if you get a speed of help Jigglypuff, if you get a speed of help Jigglypuff, you're not going to complain, right? Like speed of help Jigglypuff is just going to be fine.
It's 100% a benefit still. It's like a good benefit. You don't hate speed of help on a Jigglypuff or a Magnemite or an Arcanine. You don't hate
There is the argument that speed of help plus might not be a good option on mons like Jigglypuff because you would rather have a neutral nature, because then you won't have the negative associated with it.
It very much depends on your downside.
So it depends on the downside.
For some mons.
You'd have to rate that accordingly according to specific mon, where like a plus speed of help would be valuable, but if you did menace energy for it, then maybe that's not actually valuable. If you get minus main skill chance, if you're playing on a skills mon, maybe that actually is significant. It depends all on the exact mon specifically, but speed of help can end up being it's basically just a rule of thumb, the generally good one, right?
Yeah, it's the generally good stat. And even for mons where you're like, I don't really like the downside associated with it, they're still probably going to perform pretty well just because it exists on them. Like,
it's a little bit less than neutral, but it's fine.
Yeah, even if it's good, even if it's like help speed up, something you kind of don't want down, it's still probably going to perform at least like on bar, maybe even slightly above bar, just because help speed's that good.
Yeah, it's just a very solid reflection. And by the exact same metric, help speed down absolutely sucks. It hurts. It's painful.
There are niche situations where you can kind of overcome it with the Pokemon sub-skills, but it's an uphill battle, and you do not want this stat down at all.
The thing is
the Pokemon has to have exceptional sub-skills. Yeah.
If you can overcome it with sub-skills, you would rather not overcome it and just use the sub-skills to multiply with a speed of help boost, right? Like,
for sure.
And for anything that you're overcoming it with your sub-skills, you'd rather just not have that nature and instead have any other nature and those sub-skills. Like, it's
but
still
I will note that because you can, like, sort of balance it out, for your shinies that have down help speed, if they have exactly, like, help speed M or help bonus at their level 10, you can probably run those shinies without a problem.
Yeah, like you can still run them effectively, but the sub-skills are carrying them, and the nature is just... Yeah, the nature is impeding them.
100%. The nature is... It's probably the worst nature to have down, in my opinion.
There is basically no nature that'll... There is no nature that we could say, just by this nature, your mon is now completely worthless. You would definitely have to look at your sub-skills and say, your sub-skills and your specialty and all that, to say, is there a reason why I want to run this mon despite it having, speed of help down?
Yeah, 10%,
and the answer can be yes.
down. That's 2/3 of a help speed M for comparison. The plus or minus 10%. Help speed M is 14% gathering speed. So if you have the help speed up, you almost have like a free help speed M baked into the Pokemon already. Like you're most of the way there. And if you have a minus, that's really, really bad. Help speed M could offset it for those special things, but you don't want this at all. You don't want that nature. Your Pokemon has to have stellar sub skills for you to kind of overcome that. So yeah, check your Pokemon, see if the sub skills are great, but usually these are not something you want. Like help speed down is not a thing you want. It's very bad.
Now we get to the controversial one, the one that out of all of these here, I think that we're going to disagree with the most. XP. So we can have EXP gains or EXP losses as a booster minus. Basically, it means that you will gain. Again, it's either 20 or 18%. We don't know. There's a whole, medley of people confused about it. Let's just say it's 20% for the sake of simplicity. 20% more experience or 20% less experience when you sleep. That's the only time that you'll gain EXP that it'll be affected by that, which is exactly when you sleep. Generally, when you sleep, not only do mons restore that much energy, but they also gain that much EXP, barring any other, multipliers you might have with your mons. And EXP gains will either increase or decrease that by 20%. So if I sleep 100, I'm either getting 80 or 120 now. There are two schools of thought. My school of thought is that EXP down is a pretty good reduction to have. Because if you have EXP down, you can compensate for that accordingly, and you can still grow a mon to a point where it's going to be effective. It will not affect the value of your Pokemon sufficiently. In order for it to be a significant downgrade. If I have a level 8 Swablu with EXP down versus a level 8 Swablu that doesn't have an EXP down, they're going to perform. The one that with the EXP down is going to perform better, just on average. Always.
100%.
Because it doesn't have a real downside.
To be fair to your argument, minus EXP doesn't affect your frequency. It doesn't affect your ingredients. It doesn't affect basically any stat that contributes to the Snorlax power. So it's strictly a really good downside to have if you're just comparing Pokemon at the same level to each other.
And then comes in your argument.
Yeah, but I actually kind of enjoy EXP up. If the downside is something that I don't really care about, my Pikachu has minus ingredients, for example, apples are not very valuable. We'll get to that later. But if it's a down ingredient Pikachu with up EXP, that Pikachu is going to skyrocket in levels over the course of a few months, and it could lead your other Pokemon by quite a few levels and hit meaningful sub skills or
milestones,
milestones. Meaningful sub skills at level 25 or your level 30 ingredients where you gather a lot more at once. Stuff like that. You could be leading your other friends that are playing this game or your other Pokemon in your team by a week or two potentially, or even longer. This is something where we get into the 70s and this is a long time down the road. You can be hitting those milestones, a bit ahead of the curve, and then your Pikachu is suddenly going to blow up and be a lot better than your other Pokemon just because it's hitting those milestones for sub-skills and ingredients that are really big power spikes.
Which is a very reasonable argument, saying that you have the snowball argument where if you can get a mon really far ahead, then that mon can provide you more resources that allow you to spiral everything else out of control. And that is a very reasonable argument. So, and it's kind of two different schools of thought, right?
Yeah, so for that, I like EXP up if I'm not sacrificing much of anything for it. I'm a big fan of it for that reason. It's not going to be, best skill, like a level 100 Pokemon with EXP up versus a level 100 Pokemon with health speed up. That health speed up is going to demolish it if you just compare them at level 100 to each other. But for the little milestones along the way, it's pretty beneficial. You don't mind it at all. It's a decent nature.
The other notes to consider is that EXP up or down don't actually affect your levels significantly enough for the stats you gain from leveling, with the exception of the milestones. So if I'm looking at two mons, neither of which have reached level 25 yet, so because they're not at level 25 yet, there is no extra sub-skills to consider. The only thing you care about is the leveling bonus you've given right now, right? And given those levels, being 20% down versus 20% up, if we consider you have plus and I have minus, you're at level 24, I'll be at level 18. Which is that feels really bad. That's a major level discrepancy. But it's by such a minor amount, because the amount that you lose in terms of frequency is over 5 levels is 1% of the base. Which is very small.
using Duran berries, which we talked about Bulbasaur earlier with Duran berries, a level 11 Bulbasaur will gather berries, and they'll be 40 points effective for each berry that it gathers. While the level 21, let's say you create, or this is unrealistic. You're probably only gonna be like level 12 or 13. But even at level 21, you're only gonna be getting 50 points per berry instead of 40, which it adds up. But that's not that crazy, and stuff like Help Speed overcomes that. Exactly. So the milestones are very important for EXP. If your Pokemon has like kind of dud skills for that Pokemon, those milestones don't matter, and the EXP is basically useless.
And if EXP was linear, as in like you need the same amount of EXP to level up each single time, then I'd say actually, wow, yeah, EXP down really sucks. But it's not. It's specifically an exponential that grows in value more, and to get to each level is harder than the previous level. Which means there's going to be a breaking point where EXP down is going to catch up to EXP up by like a significant margin, where like at lower levels, EXP up is gonna be like 8 or 9 levels ahead. But by the time you get to like level 30, that difference is now shrunk to like 5 levels. And then by the time you get to level 50, that difference is gonna shrink to like 3 levels.
Yes. So it's like a good nature for now, kind of, depending on what your sub skills are for level 25 and what ingredients you unlock at 30. That's basically my take. But it will fall off. And then those Pokemon will be kind of generic-y after that. So yeah, it's a messy thing to kind of work with. So it's very Pokemon by Pokemon basis, in my opinion. And just look at the sub skills. If your EXP up Pokemon has great level 25, like if it has a helping bonus or a berry finder or even like an ingredient, and it's based on the Pokemon. But if your Pokemon has really good level 25, you probably really enjoy that EXP up because it's gonna accelerate getting to those milestones much faster.
Notably, you only gain plus or minus 20 EXP a day from it as well. That's less than one. It does add up quite a lot, but it is a notable consideration. Sure. That's less than 1 candy worth. 1 candy is worth 25 EXP, so you're getting the difference of 1 candy a day. If you have a friend who gives you 1 candy a day, that will outpace the
or you can look at it as glass half full like me, where it's like,
or you can say if you have a friend, you can do both.
My Pokemon's getting like a free candy a day. That's kind of good. I don't know. So it really depends.
They're both things to consider. Yeah, they're both valid frames of thought. Whether you're thinking about like glass half full, saying my mom's getting a free EXP candy a day, or I can offset this pretty easily by the cost of 1 candy a day, for no other like functional downside. They're both very, very valid schools of thought, and I think that we disagree.
Ending note though, Krill is 100% correct that when we get to those very, very late levels, it will fall off. It 100% will. Other things like help speed or those like ingredient finders, skill chance, those will matter way more than EXP does when we get to very, very late game. But for now, if it's a good Pokemon, you could use it to accelerate the power spikes. That's like the TLDR wrap up, I think.
And by the same thing as Anders, is that like, you know, if you're if you got a good level 25 thing, then you're gonna get a big boost of it early game. EXP up is the really solid early game value that falls off later, but in the meanwhile, it's gonna end up providing you enough benefit that it'll get you a good solid foot ahead of everybody else.
Yep.
So yeah, next we have 2 different other things left to talk about. There are the main skill and ingredient natures. We don't know exactly how this works. Like we understand conceptually how they're supposed to work, but we don't have like precise enough values for this.
Definitely.
Like we've got very wibbly wobbly idea of what it
does. It's gonna be kind of messy right now because we don't have exact values, but we can still kind of. I think we should start with ingredients because I think main skills is a lot harder to gauge. But I think ingredients is really interesting. So I want to use that Bulbasaur example. Honey is worth 101 points in your pot.
101.
Yeah. Your Bulbasaur's berries are worth way less than that. And even on favored berry weeks, you're not catching up to honey till you're level 21, 22 as point values on favored berry weeks. So honey is quite better right now, and once we unlock level 30s and level 60s, ingredients in general are going to be very good. Oh wait, no, sorry. Bulbasaur gathers 2 honeys per thing. Never mind. You never catch up. You never catch up on berries compared to honey.
Yeah, no, you never do.
I forgot the 2x ingredients. So you're going to be getting about 202 power worth per honey that you get, like per honey gathering that you get. And you're going to be getting, 50 at level 21 or if you want to match the honey, you need to be actually level 50 on your Bulbasaur before the berries outweigh your 2x honey, which is crazy down the line. You're going to have your level 3 and level 60 ingredients, have to throw a wrench into it. Ingredient Up is going to be really good for ingredient mons, period. We don't know the exact value. It could be minor. It could be pretty helpful. But ingredient mons love ingredients just because the 1x berry values are not great even with favored compared to 2 ingredients in the pot.
Yep. Basically, ingredients are good with ingredient mons. If you're an ingredient mon, you should have the ingredient skill. It's very good. It'll make you way better in ingredients. It's just good.
Yep, and it could be marginally, I can't speak, marginally good for skill specialists and berry finders potentially, or it could be actually a detriment for berry finders, and you actually want it to be negative because you want to be finding berries. So like Pikachu finds apples, that's the worst ingredient point value wise in the game, and you're getting 2x berries, and if it's a favored berry week, you're going to just be gathering so many points off of the Greppa berries. The apple rolls aren't very good for you. You would actually want like an ingredient down on a Pokemon, and plus ingredient nature could actually be a very, very minor downside. Not like a big downside, but it could like statistically be a little bit worse than average just with an ingredient up nature. But on the flip side, Chikorita gathers cacaos, which have great pot value. It's like 150 something points per cacao. 151, you said?
Yeah, 151. Very solid.
And I'm looking at the Durum berries. Chikorita gathers 2 Durum berries a pop. So 151 versus it'll be slightly worse than level 11 berry gathering and level 10. So actually no, never mind. I will retract what I was saying about that. Berry gatherers in general probably aren't like big fans of this being up. Actually, my bad. I was checking the math live.
If our understanding is correct, where ingredient up detracts from berries, you don't want to have ingredient up if you are a berry hunter. In fact, you'd rather have ingredient down if you're a berry hunter, because it means you'll have more berries consistently and fewer ingredients. If that's how it works the way that we understand it at the moment, which it very well might not be, I want to put a caveat out there. We're still investigating to be able to get the exact details, but if that's correct, then ingredient down is just going to be free, right?
Yeah, it's a messy nature because we don't have values right now. If we have values, we can 100% say yes good, yes bad, but we don't have that right now. But you want this on it. You want this on your 1x berry mons, particularly the double gatherers, the ingredient specialists. You want it for your 1x berry mons, particularly the ingredient specialists. Berry gatherers, we don't like it that much. That is our understanding at the moment.
And then lastly, we have the main skill chance, which is again one that we don't have exact values for, but it gives you a higher chance of your skill popping. The main skill, the one that's like.
And this one's messy. This one's a messy one to kind of tackle. So, something I will say, Pokemon that like energy, or not that like energy, Pokemon that have energy actives, even if there's, how do I want to say this? Pokemon that have energy actives like Larvitar or Bellsprout, they'll still trigger their skills. You're not gonna suddenly not trigger your skills because you have main skill chance down. It's just, you trigger it less. So, you don't really care that much if your Bellsprout or Larvitar is not triggering their energy twice a day, but instead 1.5 times a day.
There is also the potential idea that them triggering their ability is also replacing one of their berry costs as well.
Yeah, there is a small chance that you basically roll for berries, ingredients, or skills. There's a small chance that might be the case, and that would subtract from your berries or ingredients if that's the case. We don't know for sure. It's I don't want to say
still
speculation.
Up in the air. It is speculation.
We're pointing in that direction right now, but it's totally up in the air. But yeah, so Pokemon like that, you really don't care if you have skill chance down if they're just like self-restoring energy, because getting that 1.5 times a day instead of 2 times a day, or whatever the value will be, it's very minor. You don't mind at all. But something with like Ingredient Magnet, where Ingredient Magnet's actually a very good skill, or Charge Strength M, which is only on Skill Specialist right now, which is a very good skill, getting those less could have an impact.
Exactly.
I don't know if you want to add on to that.
I mean, that's basically exactly what I was thinking. That, in short, the main and ingredient skill ups will be very relevant for mons that want those things to happen, and for things that don't want those things to happen, the down doesn't really hurt them. It's like they're very much like very, very good on the mons that want them, and really nobody cares on the ones that don't have them. It actually might be detrimental to have plus on the ones that do have them.
I will mention for the skill chance, I don't think it's mandatory for specialists to have skill chance up. It's helpful. But
Yeah.
I think neutral nature skill specialists are totally fine. Don't be like, oh, my Togepi doesn't have a skill chance up nature. It's a garbage Togepi. That Togepi is fine.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a skill trigger somewhere in the kit, that Togepi's gonna be fine. It's just that might end up being a big downside nature for skill specialists like that.
But I will say that having a Togepi that has a plus up nature is going to be pretty friggin' nice.
Yeah, it'll be a nice extra perk on top of, like, just to trigger it that little bit more consistently.
Exactly.
It's a nice perk. It's a whatever, if you don't have it, you don't care that much. But you kind of really don't want it for those Pokemon that like their skills as a downside. Like, you don't want to have a skill chance down if you can help it. So, yeah, I guess ingredient mons, you like your ingredient ups, you dislike your ingredient downs. Skill mons, you like your skill up, you dislike your skill down. But you don't mind having neutrals. I think actually something I want to tack on to the end of this is talking about neutral natures whenever you want to get to that.
Yep.
Unless you're ready for that now.
Basically, neutral natures are the ones in between.
I actually quite like neutral natures, personally. I'm actually a big fan.
I am a big fan as well. Now that I'm looking at all of these and thinking about them objectively and considering all the benefits, like, yes, the pluses are really good, but a lot of the downsides are very painful for a lot of mons. There are some downsides that, if our understanding is correct, don't really matter. Like, if you're a berry mon, having a minus ingredients or minus skill isn't the worst in the world, but a minus skill still kind of sucks for lots of mons. Even
especially when the values
Pikachu,
are up
for
in the
example.
air and we can't calculate.
Pikachu likes triggering its ability.
Yeah,
Pikachu loves its berries, but its ability is really nice.
Yeah,
it doesn't hurt to grab one of those, right?
Yeah, it doesn't. So I don't know. So for neutral natures, I'm actually personally a big fan of them, especially while a lot of stuff is unknown right now for half of the natures. I would say, you kind of like seeing neutral nature because it's one of the better potential options you can have than having a down ingredient for something that has really good ingredients or a specialist or whatever. It could be better than having a down skill chance if you have a good skill chance. Like, there's some bad rolls you could get. Yep. So I think that, I'm actually a fan of neutral natures, and while they're not best of the best WoW or anything, this is a game where we slow drip finding Pokemon. You find... I will be generous, free to play, you don't put a dime in the game. At most, you're going to be getting 7 Pokemon a week, 1 a day. Yep. At most. So, this is a game where you slow drip finding Pokemon. I want to make that very clear. Unless you're whaling tons and tons and tons of money, you're not getting 100 Pokemon. You can't even get 100 Pokemon a night if you were whaling. But you're not getting 100 Pokemon a night like the mainline games. You're getting a very small select amount, and having the Pokemon in your box is more important than actually how good it is.
Yep. You would rather have a bad mon accessible than not have one accessible in the first place, right?
Yeah, because you can't guarantee accessibility in this game. So
exactly.
I think neutral natures are actually on the upper half of natures that you can get, because we don't know the values for all the downsides. Some of the downsides are really bad for some Pokemon, and while they're not the best of the best, it's very a consistent baseline to go, and you can just look at your sub skills to kind of carry the Pokemon pretty hard. So I'm a fan of neutral natures for that reason. It's obviously not best nature, but it's a good nature to roll, personally.
Yep. I think that's a very good assessment. So given that, let's take a look at all of the different natures and see which ones you think are the best and the worst, right? Just give a general tier list rating of them.
Yeah, so I already had them pulled up on my desktop.
Yeah, I've got them here as well. I'm gonna put them into a spreadsheet, just for convenience. For simplicity, I'm just gonna bundle all of the all the neutral natures together and just say they're all the same thing because
they're
might as
one
well be.
tier. They're a tier below whatever is best, or maybe in the middle.
Yeah, so I think that it's really easy to just say like neutral is our threshold for what a decent nature looks like because it doesn't hurt you, it doesn't help you, it's just there. So given that neutral is like the flat B B tier, what do you think is better than the neutrals?
First up, Brave. That's obvious top of the ladder. I think the speed of help up.
With EXP gains minus. Well, that's the thing is, I don't think if we're using the same kind of metric before that you were talking about of, do we think that that EXP gain is a good thing to have negatively?
I will say right now, I know we were talking about that. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
That EXP gain down nature for speed of health is so good. Speed of help is the best stat by far, in my opinion, for natures. Maybe other things could slightly edge it out, but speed of help is such a good stat, and EXP gain doesn't actually affect your Pokemon's quality at all. This is basically a Pokemon with no downsides. The EXP gain down
a minor downside,
a minor downside right now. No downside
upside
down
that
the line.
completely, it's a speed of help that it offsets it. Yeah.
So I think it's a minor hit now. I would put that at the top of the tier, and then we could discuss as we add more things.
Yeah, I think that this is better than neutral. I think basically kind of objectively.
Yeah,
for what we measure right now.
Better than neutral. It's slightly It's like a little bit of a handicap now. Will not. It'll be a little bit of a slog leveling the Pokemon up.
But once you get past level 25, you're fine. You're just
zooming. And this is probably the best nature to have at level 100. It's as like a. As a general statement, there might be slight edge cases that edge it out.
Yeah, which would you might want to have main skill or ingredient finding up with EXP down is what you want to have at level 100. It's going to take you a while to get there, and it'll take you 25% longer to get there. But when you're there, who cares? You're there, and you have the strongest mon in the game.
Yep.
Right?
But even currently, sacrificing the EXP not a bad thing for speed of help. Your Pokemon might lag behind in levels, but that speed of help will more than overcome it right now.
Exactly.
The EXP only matters for milestones.
So next I want to take a look at is on the other side of that, Lonely. I think Lonely is slightly worse than Neutral. Because the energy recovery...
neutrally, but I think you're probably right.
I think it's right around neutral, but I think it's just slightly below. Only because I think that the speed, the energy recovery is a significant enough blow that the 10% extra bonus doesn't necessarily help. If we just look at this objectively and just say, when you're at 0%, your rate is halved or something like that. And everything else is the exact same. But if we just say 0% your rate is halved, everything else is the exact same. Then even with that, just that objective look at, it still gives you less than neutral.
On the flip side, the speed of help is very, very good, and even though you might hit 0 at some point of the day, it's possible that speed of help would gather more than a neutral-based nature. I don't know the math behind it, but the speed of help is still a very good stat. In my opinion, I rate this kind of neutrally. Running out of energy, bad. Speed of help, really good. So I kind of rate it kind of neutrally myself, or even maybe slightly positive, since you might since we don't know the exact nature of frequency versus skills or anything.
So I think somewhere around neutrally then.
I think neutral is definitely fair. We look at this as kind of it's a good upside, it's a bad downside.
So we'll keep it in B tier for now, along with neutral. Yeah, we won't put it higher or lower. We'll say it's in the same tier. No plus, no minus, just B.
Because we don't know the exact math, but it's a significant downside for a significant upside. So it's very messy to kind of look at, and it hurts, but the upside is there. It's a legitimate
exactly.
upside.
So next we have what about speed of help up, ingredient finding down? I think that this is one that we put an asterisk next to.
This is a great.
Put the asterisk next to it. It's an S tier nature
for non-ingredient mons.
For non-ingredient mons.
And
for ingredient mons, it's a B tier, I think, as well. I think it's
so,
I think it's a B plus tier, where even for ingredient mons, I think that you would say, I'll take a speed of help up. I would rather have that than,
because gathering faster gives you more chances at the ingredients.
Exactly.
In a sideways way. So I think that it's not bad for the ingredient mons at all. Especially if it's an ingredient mon with a really high berry value, it's not that bad. Or if they have a low value ingredient, like honey or we don't have a specialist for it, but Apple, I guess, theoretically, you wouldn't mind it at all. I don't know. I think you're kind of on the nose. It's kind of neutral for those ingredient mons because Speed of Health is so good. And for other things that are not ingredient mons that only gather 1x ingredients and their berries may like matter just that much more. It's a top tier. It's a top tier thing.
Yeah.
I think I would prefer EXP gain down in most cases, but I do not mind this at all. Like, this could even be better than EXP down for something that gathers bad ingredients, and I want to not have them like lag behind in levels.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So good nature. It's
B tier, B plus. I put it B plus.
B plus. It's an asterisk. It's an asterisk.
Yeah.
Depends on your
I said B plus of ingredients, S tier if not ingredients.
That's fair.
If you're not ingredient mon, it's just a good upgrade. It's just good.
Yes. Agreed.
By that same nature, then naughty. I think it's the exact same thing. Although I think it's like S minus or A plus tier as opposed to S tier because
I agree.
Main skill is a thing that most mons will still like get a general benefit for.
And we don't know if it's like 5% main skill or 20% main skill. We don't have a pulse on that really. But we just know, these mons really like their skill chances, and hampering that will impact their performance definitely.
Yeah.
So
if it has a good skill, I think it's still pretty high. If it has because I said if it's a decent skill, then it's like S minus tier. If decent skill, not skill, then not a skill mon. I think it's like an A minus if it's if you're looking at if it's a bad skill, or you have a skill mon.
If I have this on my Larvitar, I'd probably consider it second best in slot nature, probably.
Second best in slot nature
for like a Larvitar. Versus like EXP gain, I would consider like Speed of Health. Okay. It would fight for best in slot or second best in slot between those two natures.
Yeah.
For sure. Like I wouldn't care if I'm triggering my energy less. Like I said earlier when we were talking about the nature. Like it doesn't matter for that mon, but for something like Butterfree or Bullrain where they have Ingredient Magnet, which is a very good skill. I would rate it slightly lower because I still like that ability proccing quite a bit, but I still will take the Speed of Health up on those mons because they're very specialists and everything.
Yeah. So I put I said that Naughty is slightly worse than Adamant, even in its best condition. For the Adamant's best situation, but I put it like between Brave and Adamant. If you have a good skill or you're a skill mon, it's like between Brave and Adamant. I put it as an A minus tier, which is it's solid, but like if you have a good skill like Pikachu, or if you are a skill mon, you would rather not have the skill chance down because it kind of does matter.
It's still better than neutral though.
It is better than neutral. Yeah, that's why I put it at A minus because neutral is just a flat B.
Than neutral usually.
Yeah. Now we have some interesting ones with plus energy recovery.
Depends on your sleep.
So yeah, now we have asterisks again. We're gonna be riddling this entire chart with asterisks. I'm gonna bring all this down. Just give myself a bunch more space because I think I need a way more space.
Well, I think we could probably knock off the obvious. I think we could probably knock the obvious bad one out, which is energy recovery for Speed of Help.
Yeah, so energy recovery for Speed of Help is below
absolute trash.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that in like D tier.
Yeah, we will see later down this line, but it would be fighting for one of the worst natures for sure.
Yeah, the only way that this could like change is if energy works way more aggressively than we think. And, having high energy really does. Yeah, but if we get that breakthrough, then yeah, this could definitely skyrocket in tiers. From what we understand right now,
skyrocket from garbage to neutral.
No,
if that was the case.
If it turns out that when you're at full energy, you gather like twice as quickly than you're at 50% energy. Then okay, wait, energy recovery is kind of insane. Then it really matters. It can make a massive difference.
Right, but still, the
getting
Speed of
there
Help is still insane.
Yeah, but it's only -10 comparatively. It all depends as to how much that percentage is. Yeah. It could be anywhere from S plus tier down to F tier. It entirely matters on how much the energy matters.
My counterpoint compared to all those other energy recovery natures that have a little bit more minor downside than Speed of Help, it will still perform worse than those natures, even if energy recovery becomes wow, we love this. It's still the worst of the energy recovery.
It is absolutely still the worst of the energy recoveries, yes.
By far. So yeah, it's garbage tier right now. If there's a rework to energy or if there's a sudden breakthrough on how energy works, It could see itself sifting up a little bit, but it's still the worst of the energy recovery natures, and it has the worst downside on top of that.
Now, on that note, Impish, plus recovery, minus energy, minus ingredient. I think it's like a B plus tier.
Yeah,
it's a bit above neutral.
It's neutral or above neutral, especially.
Of course, that's if not an ingredient mon. If you're an ingredient mon, it is just C tier.
It's not ideal. You're looking at it like kind of when you see it on an ingredient mon. But
it makes you just feel really icky. I think it's just a C tier. Then it just feels really bad.
Yeah, but this is still like if you're doing one of those chunk sleepers, and this is on particularly a berry mon or sometimes a specialist mon, you don't mind. You would rate it neutral or even better than neutral potentially
exactly.
if you're a chunk sleeper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm just gonna remove the asterisk here because I already have asterisk.
But if you do your big sleep during the day, this is technically strictly downside or close to it, and.
But we're giving that consideration. But if you don't do full sleeps, if you do full sleeps a day, all the energy recovery ones are F tier.
Yeah,
if you do 100% sleep today, all the energy recovery plus ones are F tier. I'm just considering right away that you're not doing full sleep today. Because if you are, you can just potentially just say energy plus is the worst possible plus you could have by a big shot. Just chunk it all the way down there. Energy recovery minus is still a downside, but the energy recovery plus is not an upside.
I would put Lax, which is the next one we're going to hit, energy recovery and main skill chance. I would just put that right next to Impish.
I'd agree, B plus as well.
They're basically the same, in my opinion.
Same idea, if not main skill.
Yeah, same idea, main skill instead of ingredients. You don't want it on your skill mons. But it's the same concept.
And then you do the exact same thing.
Whatever upside, good during the day, bad if you sleep all at night, blah, 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 blah. You have to be like that.
Yep. And then it's the exact same thing.
Relax might actually be... no, it's not the worst. It's pushing bad though, I think.
Yeah, Lax is decent, but Relaxed is of all the minus EXP, the thing to get out of it being energy recovery just really doesn't matter.
Yeah, why are you sacrificing your Pokemon's progression for energy? Like sacrificing it for speed of help, cool. Sacrificing it for ingredients or main skill chance, whatever, sure. But if you're sacrificing your EXP for recovery, then what are you doing with your life?
I think you put that on a C. I think we put it at like D plus tier.
It's better than down speed of help, but it feels just as bad to me.
Yeah, I think we put it D plus because it's just a little bit above bold, but only slightly.
Yeah, it still feels horrible.
Next we have modest. Yep, ingredient fighting, speed of help.
Speed of help is the worst nature. Worst nature down. But we don't love modest, in my opinion.
Yeah, modest is
great in the main line, not in sleep.
Now, if this is if you are doing this on an ingredient mon, I'm going to assume that ingredient finding will offset the speed of help.
By at least some
you'll still get more ingredients than you would have either ways.
I would put it
still feels bad.
I would put it neutrally.
Below neutral. I'd put it B minus.
That's fine.
B minus for those mons.
It's not missing the mark that much for specifically ingredient mons, but the rest of the cast.
But if it's otherwise, it's like a D plus.
Rest of the cast don't like this nature. Ingredient mons, they can work with it for sure. It's not ideal, but they can definitely work with this, especially if they have a good skill list.
Yeah, so I said if it's not an ingredient mon, it's D plus. If it is an ingredient mon, it's B minus. This is probably
it's roughly close to the neutral natures, maybe barely missing the mark.
Yeah. So we have mild, plus ingredient finding minus energy recovery. This one hurts. This is another one that's if ingredient good, if not.
Yeah, same thing as speed of help. I think it's. I would put it just butt buddy it with modest personally.
I would as well.
They're both really bad downsides. This might even be a worse downside than speed of help potentially if you're a chunk sleeper, because you're getting less value out of that speed of help throughout the day. Like, you're gonna be hovering around that threshold of low energy more often. I don't know if you get where I'm going with this. You're gonna be hovering around that threshold of low energy often and just not being able to gather as much.
I don't agree, because I think you're actually going to be the exact opposite, because it depends on where you start. You'll either be hovering around low energy consistently or hovering around high energy consistently. Because you can either say, I've got a 100 mon, I go down to 50, go back to 200, down to 50, on to 100, or you can have 50, 0, 50, 0, 50, 0.
Yeah, that's fair. We'll just butt buddy it. They're both bad. They're about the same.
Yeah, I'm going to put it in D tier as well. Like, I'm going to put both of them in, in that same They're, another D+.
I wholeheartedly agree. Not ideal. It's okay for an ingredient finder mon, but we don't like it.
Yeah, no, it feels big poo-poo.
Yeah. Rash next is one I really like.
Yeah, I think Rash is really good. If you're on ingredient mon, that's a really, really solid ability.
Larvitar loves this.
Like, I would put this in A tier.
Bellsprout loves this. Geodude, it's at least slightly positive, but he probably loves it as well. Like, it's just a great... great asterisk. It's a good nature. It's a very good nature. Like,
I think it's A.
Nature. Yeah.
I think this is a solid A tier.
It is solid A tier. It's probably the best of the ingredient natures outside of the EXP gain down one.
Yeah, which, again, we'd have the EXP gain, We consider EXP gains accordingly. But I think that Rash is better than EXP gain, actually.
I don't hate that. I think we butt buddy them together, actually. We just do Rash and Quiet.
Both of them together?
In my opinion, because EXP gain is a very situational thing, but we get the ingredient finder off of it, and I think.
And if you're not an ingredient mon, then this kind of just goes to a C+ tier. It's okay. It's not gonna be the worst in the world. It's fine. You're not gonna be super happy you got it, but Yeah. I want to note, for non-ingredient mons, I think Rash is basically just neutral. It depends on your kit. But it's basically almost like you got a neutral nature just because, ingredient for skill chance, whatever. I think that if you're a Berrymon, if it's a Berrymon, it's neutral. If you're a maze, if you're a Skillmon,
if you're a Pikachu, you don't like the ingredient finder. If you're a Chikorita, whatever. It depends on your ability. I think that Rash can go basically anywhere depending on your mon. I'm going to be putting it in A tier and B- tier just for now. But with the understanding that Rash can go kinda everywhere. There are some mons where you're like, well, cool. I have a mon whose entire thing is I get apples and have a baller ability. I don't want plus ingredients and minus skill chance. That really sucks. That would be B-. Or whatever.
Yeah, that would be a B-. So it would feel bad. It might even be lower than that. It might even be a C tier for that specific kind of.
But somebody who's apples and good ability. If you're a skill specialist that finds cacao, like Psyduck or Slowpoke, you actually quite like this nature.
Yeah,
you actually really like this nature.
Yeah. That's like a B- to B+. It can be anywhere on this chart, basically. It goes up from A down to D. We're not getting any Fs in here, but it's there. It's there.
We could put bold enough, but we're gonna be nice today.
Yeah, bold I put in D tier because it's bad, but I'm gonna give it. There are worlds where you might want to have bold. You're insane if there is, but maybe you want to. Maybe you're a little crazy.
Yeah.
Quiet and Rash are both done. Quiet I put at C+ as opposed to B- because I think it's slightly less good than Rash is, even in its lower end. Calm. We're now main skill chance up and speed of help down.
It's very weird and gross. It's very weird.
Yeah. I want to put this in C+.
Yeah. So this is one where I could see it being not as bad if we find out that the main skill chance nature actually is super impactful for skill specialists. But I don't like it. Speed of help is the worst downside. We've talked about this multiple times. It's the worst of the main skill chance up natures. And it just is... It's a slight benefit for a really big downside.
Yep. I think we just kind of keep it there and just C+. There you go.
Gentle time?
Gentle time.
Asterisk?
Main skill up for energy
B.
down.
Asterisk B? I feel like.
I think that's reasonable. I think that it's basically a neutral if you're a Skillmon. If you're not a Skillmon, it fucking sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It also depends on your skill for not skill mons. You still like your ingredient magnets or whatever, but
yeah. So if it's a good, if you are a good skill, basically if you're a Skillmon or good skill, then cool.
Then whatever B tier we can work with it.
Then B tier. Otherwise, it's D tier.
Yeah, agreed.
As bad as bold.
Agreed. If you don't actually bank on your ability that much. This is energy down is a pretty significant downside for you. If you love your ability, you can work with this for sure. If you don't love your ability, big downside for very little to no benefit.
Exactly. Careful, where the downside is ingredient finding.
I almost just want to match it to Rash.
Yeah, A tier. I think this is just a solid A tier.
I think matching it to Rash is very fair.
Yep, it's the
inverse, and for the mons that don't like Rash, they like this nature for sure.
Yep. This is
like
basically careful. It is in this whole thing. If it's a skill, if you're a skill-based mon, you like that.
Yep. If you don't like your ingredients, you like this. If you don't like, if you have a bad ingredient list like Pikachu with apples, you like this nature.
Yep.
So yeah, I think you just butt buddy it with Rash, and just it depends on the mon we're talking about. But these two skills are very good contextually.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna butt buddy it as well in B- tier. Same idea. If you have like a plus, if you have like a plus ingredient.
Yeah. If you have a good ingredient, if you have like a good ingredient and a bad nature or a bad skill, you don't like it. If you have a good ingredient and a good skill, it's kind of but okay, we don't mind it at all. But yeah, it definitely has that kind of just like same vibe as Rash, just opposite.
It's basically. It's again just like feels slightly worse than neutral if you're berries, and then if you have the negative, it's like a C tier. If you don't have the negative, then whatever. Like it's the same kind of idea. I'm actually gonna put them in C tier real quickly just to get insert.
This is gonna be a bit interesting going into the EXP ones or natures.
Yeah.
Going into that next. I'm not even sure where I'm gonna put most of these until we discuss them. I think I know where I'm gonna put one.
So we've now done careful. We have Sassy. Main skill plus skill minus EXP.
Oh yeah, now, I still have Sassy to go. This one's interesting.
This is either like A plus tier,
this
or
is either
like
a very
C
very
tier.
good. So if it turns
or
again, if we find out that main skill chance is absolutely like stellar, this could be an asterisk X S tier up next to like Brave potentially.
Yeah.
But
I think this is like A- right now.
Yeah,
I think A- is a good place to put
it. A- right now, as far as we know. But if you're a specialist, you really like it. If you're not a specialist, but you have a good skill, you kind of like it. It's kind of neutral, but you kind of like it. And if you're not a skill specialist and you have a bad ability, or if you're a skill specialist with a bad ability, you're not a fan.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put it in B- tier if bad skill.
Yeah, B- if bad skill. Because it's still technically like EXP levels out at some point, but
if it's not skill, bad skill. If you are if it's a bad skill but you have skill, like the skill specialty, or if you don't have skill but you got an okay skill itself, like the main skill is okay, then it's like B- tier. But if you have a bad skill and you are not skilled, like it's like a D tier.
Yeah, for sure. It's as with everything, it's very contextual to the mon, but we don't like the EXP down reduction crazy tons for like this really good portion of our players.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and now we get into the interesting pile of Timid, EXP gains minus speed of help.
If you have an EXP game on, this is not the one you want.
This is like a D tier, D plus tier.
It's the inverse of Brave, and I think it kind of deserves the inverse rank, personally. Like, even though I'm high on EXP games, this is a very significant downside. It's a downside you hate to have on every single mon across the board, and it's potentially even like your most important stat. We don't want to do EXP games for this nature if we can help it. If you have a stellar sub skill kit with milestones, you could kind of like pretend to like balance it out a little bit, but it's not worth that for that thing.
Yeah, it's probably just bad. You would rather have any other EXP gain ability for that.
Definitely, I agree.
So plus EXP for minus energy.
This one's a bit more interesting. So if you're a Pokemon like Wigglytuff or one of the energy game ones, this is actually a very positive skill.
I would agree with you there.
This is actually one of like probably the better natures you can get for those mons, even, I would say.
Yeah, I think we put this in A- tier for mons like that, specifically because it's like if you are an energy recovery mon, if energy skill, simply because like you completely offset that downside, and it means that you're gonna skyrocket in usefulness very quickly. It's not one you care about late game. Like, EXP games are never going to care about late game, but it's going to give you such a powerful rate up early and it's going to provide you enough momentum to get you to late game early.
And in those late game cases, I would treat those pretty neutrally even still, like in like a theoretical late game. For those cases, like they're kind of like a neutral nature for them if we're saying like a level 100 mon, because they're still going to get like tons of energy off their skills. The downside is basically non-existent for those guys. Like
I mean,
if we
they're
get
still
to level,
losing 20 energy, right? Like,
yeah, it's not ideal.
Negligible. It's still a downside, but it's a very small downside. Once you reach level 100, it's like a B minus.
I guess that's fair. Their main skill, you're gonna have like level 6 main skills at that point, probably.
Yeah, so
like
and you're gonna be giving like 45 every time you boost a skill.
Yeah, it's technically a downside when we reach that point, but it's not a downside worth worrying about.
Now we have another split to consider. Jolly. If you are not an ingredient mon,
this actually could be very, very powerful on berry finders.
I think we put this on S- tier.
I agree. If you're a mon that gathers 2 berries, or you're a skill-based mon with a bad ingredient, you love this nature. Like, you can use it to accelerate those early game spikes really hard, and while it's, like, everything's probably going to be B- when we hit that theoretical endgame, this is something that you can use to spike your starter Pikachu really hard, get, like, a level 25 Raichu while the Pokemon are still at level, 17,
exactly.
18. Like,
if you have a Jolly Pikachu at the beginning of the game, you are losing your mind.
You're like, this is one of like the 3 best natures I can get. It's arguably like the best nature if I'm just trying to like spike my free-to-play account. Like,
yes, yeah. If you aren't going to be using Pikachu late game, then and you're not going to be using Raichu late game,
yeah. If you farm a better Raichu,
the best
late
one
game,
to have.
If you farm a better Raichu for late game play or whatever later down the line, this can just spike your account potentially for that on like the starter too, and it's still good on other berry mons as well. Like
if you have Jolly. If you have Jolly on a mon that has bad ingredient or is like a berry mon or something, then Jolly means that's going to be your first mon to get to level 25.
Yeah.
It's going to be, like, if you could get a decent 25 sub-skill on it, then Jolly is like, cool. This is the best possible nature in the game.
If you're a Pokemon that has like helping M into Berry Finder, or helping M into Global Health Bonus or whatever, this is an insane nature for you for just like making your account that much stronger right now. It's like a very big immediate power spike for like those specific cases.
By that exact nature, I also think we put in Naive in S- tier as well.
I agree.
If you have a bad skill, or you're a Berrymon.
Yeah, and on it, like, same thing as,
Actually, no, I'm gonna put it A+. Only because, like, if you have a bad skill, sure, it'll be about the same as Jolly. But even if you have a bad skill, you'd kind of rather have, a skill trigger every once in a while if it wasn't great,
I think
than have
it's more of a benefit, even if you have, like, a whatever skill. I think it's still more of a benefit than down ingredient finder for the Berrymons.
Yeah, so I think that, I did put in as A+, so it's like a little tier below. Because I think skills are a bit more useful.
Yeah, I think it's worse than Jolly, but not by a big amount.
Yeah, it's like basically it's the only one in A+ tier right now. So let's go down the entire list according to what we have at the moment, just so we can get everything verbally.
Top to bottom, S to F.
So, S tier, we have Adamant, plus speed of help, minus ingredient finding. That's specifically if you're not an ingredient mon. Then we have S- tier, which has Naughty and Jolly, which is Naughty is speed of help up and main skill chance down. That's if you have a bad skill and you're not a skill mon, then it's really useful. Jolly is plus EXP gain, minus ingredient finding. That's again if you're not an ingredient mon, or if you're a bad ingredient mon, or if you're a berry mon, that's really huge. Specifically if you're both. If you're like a Pikachu, for example, that's massive. A+ tier is Naive. It's plus EXP gains minus skill chance. That's if you have a bad skill or you're a berry mon. Same kind of idea as Pikachu, but if you have if you have that, it's going to be slightly less good than Jolly is. Next, we have the A tier, which has Brave, Rash, Quiet, and Careful. Brave is speed of help, EXP gains. Rash is plus ingredient finding, main skill chance. That's specifically if you're an ingredient mon. Rash and Quiet are both ingredient mon ones, where Quiet is ingredient finding, EXP gains. If you're an ingredient mon, you're happy with either having EXP down or main skill chance down in the exchange of getting ingredients consistently. If you have, like 2x Cocoa or something like that, you're gonna be losing your mind. If you can get an Absol with that, you're gonna lose your mind with it. It's amazing. Yeah. Careful, main skill up, ingredient finding down. That's if you're specifically a skill mon. You don't really care about ingredients if you're not an ingredient mon. You're going to be really happy with having your main skill trigger more often.
Berrymons
if you're a mon that cares about skills.
Yeah, Berrymons.
Berrymons also enjoy this, but it's, it's less huge on Berrymons.
It's more generic though.
It's like B- on Berrymons. Like, that's what we put it through there. It's slightly below neutral because like losing a bit of ingredient, finding a bit of, So A- next is Naughty, Sassy, and Hasty, which is speed of help up, and so Naughty is speed of help up, main skill down if you have a good skill or you're a skill mon. Sassy is main skill up, EXP down if you're a skill mon as well. And then Hasty is EXP gain up and energy recovery down if specifically EXP up and energy recovery down if you're a mon that has an energy skill, because you can offset the energy recovery pretty conveniently.
Pretty easily.
That's not that big of a deal if that's your game. By that same metric, we could also say that like the skill chance up, recovery down also matters, but like we have to do the balancing there, so we kind of we shoved it a bit lower because it's much harder to.
It's less exciting too.
Exactly, it's way less exciting to think about. We put that one down in B tier. But yeah, so B plus is Lax, Impish, Adamant. Lax is energy recovery plus main skill chance down. If you're not a skill mon, obviously, that's just going to be solid. Impish is energy recovery up, ingredient finding down if you're not an ingredient mon. And then Adamant is plus speed of help minus ingredient finding, only if you are an ingredient mon. If you're not an ingredient mon, Adamant is insane, but if you are an ingredient mon, that downside does hurt. But speed of help is still going to be slightly better than neutral, even on an ingredient mon. You're going to kind of hate to see Adamant on that mon specifically, but, in terms of natures, you're still above neutral for it. It's better to have that one over the bad ones. You'll take that. You'll take those. Next, we have all the neutral natures on B. And then we have a bunch of other Bs paired along with it as well. Lonely and Gentle. Lonely is plus speed of help minus energy recovery, and Gentle is plus main skill chance minus energy recovery. Specifically, if you have a good skill. Speed of help is just good on everybody, but main skill is only useful if you have a good skill or if you're a skill up mon. But the minus energy recovery kind of does hurt, so you really want something that can kind of offset amount, and that main skill chance and speed of help, either can offset that.
You need to abuse the main skill chance for this to be neutral, basically.
Exactly. Next, you have 5 B minuses. We have Modest, Mild, Rash, Careful, and Sassy. For Modest, Mild, and Rash, they're all plus ingredient findings up, and the downside is speed of help, energy recovery, and main skill chance. Speed of help and energy recovery is if they're ingredient mons, because getting the boost up with ingredients on ingredient mons is really nice, but the energy recovery and speed of help really does suffer. But for Rash, which is plus ingredient fighting minus main skill chance, if you're a berry mon, you're one that doesn't really care about the ingredients, but you also don't really care about skill chance, you'll take, I guess, a bit of ingredients extra. It kind of sucks a little bit because you'd rather have more berries than ingredients, but ingredients isn't going to hurt you in the end of the world. Careful is main skill chance up and ingredient fighting down if you're a berry mon. Again, same kind of idea as Rash. It's just the same thing flipped. You don't really care about the skill being increased or ingredients being down. It's just completely neutral to you, honestly. It takes up your berry slot. Yeah, whatever. Next is B minus Sassy, which is main skill chance up and EXP gains down. You only really care about that if you have a bad skill or you're not a skill user, because Sassy is really good if you do have the skill that works. If you have a bad skill and you're not a skill mon, this plummets significantly. But right now, if you're got a bad skill but you're a skill mon, or if you've got an okay skill but you're not a skill mon, then it's kind of just slightly less than neutral. Whatever, you'll be okay with it. Next, we have C plus, which is Calm and Quiet. Calm is main skill chance up and speed of help down, because fine. You're not a huge fan of losing speed of help, but I mean, a bit of main skill can maybe offset it, fine. Quiet is ingredient finding up, EXP gains down. Again, it's ingredients for XP is not really worth it, but it's there, I guess. If you're not an ingredients mod, it's fine, sure, I guess. It's way better if you are an ingredients mon. Next is C tier, Lax and Impish, both of which are energy recovery ups, although we have main skill chance down or ingredient down. If you're not a ingredient mon or skill mon, whichever one is the downside, if you are that mon, it's gonna suck for you. You're okay with having energy up, but you don't want to lose your specialty for it. If you lose your, minus skill for a skill mon or minus ingredient for an ingredient mon, just kind of sucks for the energy recovery aspect. You're not really happy with having that trade-off. Next, we have C minus, which is Rash and Careful. Rash and Careful are the exact opposites of each other. Ingredient finding and main skill chance and flipped. If you have if the downside is your specialty, you don't really want to have that. Ingredient finding up, main skill down. If you're a skill mon, that sucks. Main skill up, ingredient down. If you're an ingredient mon, that sucks. Both of those are C-. But you do get enough that it kind of offsets it from not being D tier, like D+. Timid, mild, modest, and relaxed. Timid is EXP up, speed of help down. The EXP does not offset the speed of help, all things considered, and EXP up can be offset quite significantly, whereas even in the mid to late game, the speed of help does not get offset, and the thing you get up with EXP gains, like, this is
100% worse nature when we get to the end game.
When you get to end game, once you've gotten past most things, it sucks. It's terrible.
This will be horrible. This is gonna
you get no upside for a big downside.
This is gonna be the nature you hate to see on your Pokemon when we get to 50s, 70s, 100s. This is gonna be like,
exactly.
Man, why did I train up this useless Pokemon when you reach these levels?
Exactly. You'll start regretting it once you get really deep. You're like, man, I finally got it to level 100, and then you realize, wait, crap, why did I get it to level 100? Because I got minus speed of help. You'd be okay with basically minus anything else, but minus speed of help is by far the worst possible option for EXP gain.
Definitely.
Next, you have mild and modest. If you are ingredient plus, and then the minus would be either energy recovery or speed of help. If you're not an ingredient mon, you don't really care about ingredient finding, and the minus for energy recovery and speed of help both really suck. You don't really want to get ingredient finding for minus speed of help if you're a berry mon or skill mon. That just sucks entirely. The ingredients are going to be detracting from you entirely. That's awful. And lastly, relaxes energy recovery up, EXP gains down. It's, energy recovery does not get offset by lower EXP by a significant chunk. You'll be behind. You'll have like a small constant bonus, but it does not help you get there continuously. It's just not worth it by basically any metric.
Almost as bad as speed of help down for the EXP natures. Almost as bad.
Yeah. And now we have the three worst of worst, the D tiers. Bold, gentle, sassy. Bold is unequivocally the worst one that does not have a conditional attached to it. Energy recovery up for speed of help down. That is bad. If you are going to be increasing your energy and then decreasing your speed, there's no point in increasing your energy for it. I'd rather just have a neutral skill or basically anything else above here, because it's going to be giving you the same offset.
I would take EXP even.
I take basically anything else besides this, and as a general catch-all. And then gentle and sassy are both like main skill up if you have a bad ability and you're not a skill mon, with the downside being energy recovery, EXP gains. Losing energy recovery for boosting a bad skill just sucks. Yeah, losing EXP for boosting a bad skill, that sucks.
You can live with it if you're the specialty, but you don't.
If you're not the specialty, why would you care?
This is basically like almost strict downside. If you're not,
it's terrible.
It's just a lot of downsides for very minor gains.
Technically, Sassy is going to be better than, Timid in the super late game. But if you're not going to be getting there, EXP gain's going to drag you behind, and the plus to skill chance does not matter if you're a Jigglypuff.
I will say, when we get to the late game, just catch a Sassy Pokemon and train that.
Exactly. Yeah,
if you care about that 1% more efficiency, just catch it when we get to the late game and train it then.
So yeah, that is our nature
awesome.
tier list, rather. You agree roughly with our placements?
Oh, I 100% agree with the placements. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I would change on this list.
They're roughly evenly distributed as well. There's a couple tiers that have that absent a little bit and are a little bit packed, but I think they're overall pretty well spread all the way through here. So yeah. Thank you very much, Andis, for joining me on the podcast.
Hold on. Would you like to plug Math Cord, Sleep Cord, or anything like that? Or
I was going to do that in a second. I was going to say thank you very much, and I was going to do the whole rattles.
All right, cool. Never mind. I'm just jumping the gun. Go for it.
So thank you very much for joining me on this episode of the podcast. I hope that you had fun as well. And everybody else who's watching, hope you guys will enjoy all the future episodes we're going to do of this podcast. If we do more, I have no idea if we're going to. I hope we do. We'll see what happens, what new developments come up in the near future. If you enjoyed this episode, I hope that you'll join the Math Cord, the Sleep Math Cord. The link will be down in the doobly-doo wherever we're going to be posting this. Otherwise, feel free to find us anywhere. You can find us in the side of the subreddit. You can find us in the server info of the official Pokemon Sleep Discord. You can add me on Discord if you like. My username is MathGeek. I'd be glad to invite you wherever you'd like if you want to come hop in with us. And we will see you all next time. Anything else you want to plug?
And you will see me around almost certainly if you go into any of the Sleep Cord Discords. Red Pandas Bear is the hashtag on there. And if you have questions, feel free to just drop either a DM or at me or something, and I will gladly just help with any like questions that you have if you see me around. I try to be friendly to people that are gonna like try to come in and ask questions, because everyone's just trying to learn, really. That's
Exactly.
the big thing. We're all just here to kind of learn and figure out this game together.
And lastly, if this has been a little bit of time since the podcast has come up, then maybe SleepDB is up. Check it out at sleep-db.com. That's a website that we're hopefully going to be getting up soon for all the compendium stuff of Pokemon Sleep. If you want to go take a look at all of this, including our tier list and explanations and all of the above, hopefully that'll all be there soon. It's not up yet as of recording this episode, but we'll hopefully see it up in the next little bit. So have a good one, everybody. Hope that you guys have enjoyed the episode, and I'll see you all next time.
Cheers!